All right, and we are live. Well, I want to thank you, Wayne, for joining me for another live stream. And for everybody that's how many people do we got right now? I think we got about 34 so far. Oh, it's jumping up to 49 now. So we got a lot of people starting to come in. Yeah, so I want to thank you, Wayne, for joining. Hey, your name is the Cat Rules. Nice. Yeah, so thank you for joining me again. And we were doing another round of a live stream and Q&A session with the community. So how's everything in Toronto? I mean, give us an update on how things are going with the FIFA World Cup in town.
Yeah, it's been absolutely crazy in Toronto. The Yankees are in town too. So
Yeah,
between the Yankees playing the Jays this weekend, and which always brings in a ton of people, and then
right.
the World Cup starting kicking off, um, the downtown is really moving right now, and it's kind of fun to feel the energy of the city. So it's
How's the
nice.
logistics like? Is the transit holding up and everything?
Yep, everything seems to be working. I think most people are like, if you're from out of town, are staying sort of right
Uh-huh.
downtown, so it's
Right.
pretty easy. So you're not getting a lot of the people trying to come from Ajax into Toronto. So for the most part, even yesterday, the traffic was not horrible for Toronto. Like you got to remember, you got to put it in Toronto context. Um,
Right.
I had to drive out to Guelph yesterday, and it only took me an hour and a half. So that's really not bad for Toronto traffic on a weekend.
Hmm. It's been a while since I've been. I mean, the last time I was in Toronto was probably 2009, maybe somewhere around there. So, and I remember back then traffic was a bit dicey, but I'm sure it's probably worse now. So,
You know, the good part about the World Cup, and this is probably one of the few good things, is that they actually finished all the construction beforehand. So they actually have roads open for a weekend.
nice.
And if you know anything about Toronto, is they'll close everything for anything every weekend, so you can't get around anywhere.
Hmm.
So the weekend before the whole Don Valley Parkway was closed for a bike race, and there was construction on the Gartner forever, and now this is all open. So it makes it kind of interesting to see a Toronto summer without a ton of construction going on.
Well, it's good thing that they got all the construction done, right? I mean, can you imagine if the construction was not completed yet?
Yeah, no, it would have been nightmare, to be honest with you. And it's still Toronto's building two big subway lines, so
Yeah.
um, getting around the downtown is always kind of interesting here. I'm glad
Hmm.
I walk almost 90% of the places I go.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. And I heard in Vancouver. I mean, I was asleep yesterday when the Vancouver game was happening, but woke up this morning and then seems like everything went okay with it. So, since we're on the FIFA topic, I mean, one of the things that I have been reporting on my channel is, the underwhelming amount of bookings that are happening in not just Canada but the United States as well, right? So,
Yeah, the U.S. especially, actually.
yeah. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that hotel bookings are down, flights to the United States for the World Cup are down. But, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's kind of a balance of things. Like, if you think about this for a second, they've done everything possible to try and kill their tourism industry. If I'm the if I'm the hotel association down there, I am really unhappy with them right now,
Yeah.
because you have the people getting their ESTAs canceled, and that's making news all over the place. You have the fact that the airline prices right now have gone up, and they're not coming down anytime soon. So, like, let's just figure, even if tomorrow peace broke out in the Middle East, which we know isn't going to happen,
Hmm.
but Iran's still now going to be charging a toll on every ship going through, which
Yeah.
means that's going to add to the cost. So it's never going to go down to where it was before the conflict.
Yeah.
So you're just an airline price. This is what people don't understand about airline fuel. Airline fuel is literally just the top of the barrel. It's like the top 2-ish%.
Hmm.
So if you think about a barrel of oil, only the top 2% can be used. It has to be super, super pure to be airline fuel.
Right.
So so you can, so all the fuel coming out of the ground, you can't just put what you put in your car into a jet. It just doesn't work.
Hmm.
So, and then you add in the fact that, you know, you had all these negative stories about, oh, this referee couldn't come in, and then these players got hassled,
Yeah.
and even stuff that they prearranged to make it look good. There's
Hmm.
one of the teams where they did the searches right on the tarmac to try and get them through the process faster. It just looked bad.
Yeah, I
Like,
saw that. Yeah.
yeah, and so no one's thinking at all. And then you're looking at prices. They were trying to get premium prices for absolutely everything. Once again,
Mhm.
you add in the economies everywhere else, and basically most economies around the world are flat right now.
Yeah.
And people are worried about jobs. Like, people aren't going to spend thousands of dollars on a FIFA ticket if they don't think they're going to have a job next month.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
and most
I
people couldn't
pushed.
afford it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I just pushed out a video yesterday, and towards the end of the video, was talking about a father who wanted to take his son, but the tickets that he was looking at were like $1,000 a piece. So it's tough, right? And
You know,
yeah.
I just keep thinking, who doesn't think about the rich people? Like, look at the cost of gas. It's going
Mhm.
up. Everyone's, yachts, how expensive yachts are to maintain. Of course, the
Yeah.
rich people need their leisure, publicly subsidized.
Yeah.
That's just the way it has to be, right?
Hmm.
Silliness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, right now, I mean, I said in my video yesterday, I think we're going to get a lot of how do I say it? Positive FIFA videos, but it's going to start to drown out the fact that the underlying issue is that is not getting the attendance or the ticket sales or the bookings that they expected. So, um, I
Well,
really do wonder how many tickets are going to go unsold. So,
I kind of have sort of two minds about it,
mhm,
because the economic argument is just a bad one for FIFA.
mhm,
Same thing with most Olympics. Same thing. You don't do it for, if you're doing it for economic impact, you're doing it for entirely the wrong reasons,
right.
right? You're doing it as a PR thing, as a community building thing, as a soft power thing. You can decide on your own what you think that is worth,
Mhm,
right? So, for example, the Vancouver Olympics, you got the Sea to Sky Highway and you got the transit expansion. That would never have happened without the Olympics coming,
yep. Yep.
right? You need that catalyst, or it would have taken 50 billion years to get them done.
Yep.
So when you have, like, even Toronto, the Gardner and stuff like that, it was open on time because of this World Cup.
Hmm.
So what's that worth?
Yeah.
And it makes to an interesting question. What is soft power worth?
Yeah.
And we're starting to see, the thing about the USA, and this is the interesting. I'll delve into a little bit of politics here. Is that soft power? This is where countries are now saying you can't use our bases. The
Hmm.
soft power thing is, and that goes to hard power too. But the idea is you have a lot of people worldwide who are now, the politicians can get stronger against the US because they know they have the political backing of their people. So, for example, if Canadians hadn't gotten so angry about everything, we
Yep.
would have had PP as a prime minister,
Yep.
and the whole relationship would have changed, the whole economy would have changed, everything would have changed as a result.
Hmm.
So in Europe, a bunch of those leaders, because their citizenry is now fired up and sort of anti-US, anti-Trump in particular. I don't think they're anti-US. I think they're more anti-Trump. But
Hmm.
people, you can't separate the two. They're one and the same at the moment. So
Hmm.
the idea of it is that, you have to look at it and think about it for a second. This is why these political leaders can stand up to them. It's because, pure and simple, they have the they have the backing of the people, and they know it's not going to cost them electorally.
Hmm.
So when you get that situation, like in the states, it doesn't matter because the way elections are run, because you basically need millions and millions and millions of dollars to run. I look at Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. He had what, over $25 million to run in a seat that he was going to win no matter what.
Hmm.
You're not getting that from $10 and $20 donations.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, there was a really interesting discussion of Elon Musk is now the first trillionaire, right?
Hmm.
Like, he spent, what was it, 250 million on the last election.
Yeah.
Well, that election turned on about a quarter million. So he spent $1,000 a vote and he got his way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, money is really what drove the election, right? And who knows? If you ask me, I mean, it's going to happen again during the next election. I guess that's what, 2028 or something like that, right? And the system of the United States right now, I don't know how they fix it, right? So,
Well, it's a whole Citizens United thing. So
Yeah.
because there's so much money, even at state level, you need to be raising in the tens of millions of dollars. You don't get that from like me and you donations. That's not going to happen. So what happens is the system becomes broken as a result. The one nice thing about the Canadian system and
Mhm.
and much of the European system is they have such controls over what can be donated and what you can
Right.
do. Yes, they're going to get their cushy um, board seats after they're done.
Mhm.
So that's a little bit of that. But generally, the balancing act, the money can't drive the elections the same way as it does in the States.
Yeah. It's yeah. I mean, money talks. I mean, that's pretty much what it is, right? So
Well, yeah, I lived down there for 15 years and I got to see how money specifically works
yeah.
in the US politics. And it's almost obscene. It's such a difference from Canada and from Europe, for example, and from
Mhm.
Australia. I'll give Australia and our New Zealand friends, you know, any of the like the US is probably the only system where that really, really works. Maybe the Russian system. It's getting closer to that.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, one thing I want to talk about. I mean, this, you know, it's part of, I guess, I mean, the basis of my channel, and the bread and butter, I guess, of what we are talking about here. I mean, summer's coming up, right? I mean, obviously, we
Oh, yeah.
got the World Cup kind of padding the numbers for the United States, and one thing that really bothers me. I mean, the fact that we're now seeing a lot of comments that things are turning around, right? I mean, obviously, the last April, and then it's just been announced that May numbers are higher than last year's numbers. But my question for you, I mean, what are your predictions for summer when it comes to travel?
Well, we're kind of. Are you talking for Canada specific? Okay, so
Canada
I'm going to talk.
specific, I mean, in
Yeah, I'll talk
general.
Canada specific, and then I'll get around the world a little
Yeah.
bit. Canada specific, domestic still going to be strong. We're already seeing the pre-bookings to be pretty strong. Part of that is buoyed by some of the World Cup stuff, but it's also a lot of people. Uh, we're getting we're a lot of people are staying domestic because of cost. So, and what we're seeing is people aren't taking like the 2 week trips; they're taking more 4 day weekends,
Yeah.
or they're doing what we call bleisure trips. So I'm going to leave on Sunday. I'm going to go on a trip till Wednesday. I'll do my couple of Zoom calls or whatever from the road, from the
Mhm.
hotel room, and then I'll mix the business and leisure.
Right.
Um, we're also seeing a what we call K-shaped tourism.
Mhm.
Um, the really rich people are doing really rich people things. For the rest of us, camping is going to do really well this year. It's going to
Yeah.
look like the COVID year. If you're renting out cabins that can have like 3 or 4 families in them, guess what? You're probably going to do pretty well. Um,
Mhm.
the road trip this year is going to be shortened. So we're seeing less road trips, sort of longer road trips. So if you're going to do the cross Canada road trip, that's going to be there's going to be fewer people doing that just because of
Well,
fuel prices and the cost of hotels and everything going on. We're seeing less of
right.
that. So people are tending to do more shorter trips domestically within like a 6 hour ish type drive,
Mhm.
probably more closer to 4 hours because once again, and people want to go somewhere where they can park their car, leave it, enjoy this place, and come back.
Right.
So these are the things that we're starting to see a little bit domestically.
Mhm.
Um, Thanks to our good friends in the States for talking about the exchange rate all the time. There's a bunch of Americans who discovered that there is an exchange rate. Um, so we're seeing more Americans coming to the Canada this year. So it'll be interesting to see these numbers at the end of summer because the
Yeah.
U.S. economy is dipping so. So when I say you come to Canada and you're getting 35% off, I'll do a Wayne explains a little bit on this
Sure.
sort of
Yep.
next week. I think you have one in the can, so I know you have
Yep.
it. So where I'll go into a deeper explanation of how this works, but essentially the price difference is phenomenal. Like you take 35% off a $250, $300 hotel room, $100 a night is a big difference in your
Yeah.
bottom line. And then you add the taxes on top of it. And, to come to Canada is actually a really good value destination. So with the US economy right now kind of in trouble.
Hmm.
They're in more trouble than we are with the K-shape.
Yeah.
We're starting to look much more attractive to our American friends.
Yeah.
And then European markets and Asian markets, I don't think we're going to see the numbers we saw last year. And a lot of
Mm.
that purely has to do with cost. You were talking about this about booking a flight back to Vancouver. Um,
Yeah.
the flight prices are getting high.
Yeah.
And once again, if you're an airline CEO, I don't want your job. I don't want to go anywhere near that gig. That
Right.
is a no-win gig at the moment.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I think are kind of important. Um, but I don't. I think we're going to see a drop in those two marketplaces.
Yeah.
Um,
The U.S. travel north. I mean, what would you guess in terms of like, because I remember, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, but I think it was like a 6 or 7% increase in terms of U.S. citizens coming north.
yeah.
What do you predict is going to be this year? I mean, now that they're finding out the exchange rate is actually beneficial for them.
Well, that's the thing about it is, and you're starting to see, and people are. The funny part is they don't cover all the border stories down south,
Hmm.
right? So they're not hearing what all the stories we hear on the
Hmm.
negative sides about crossing into the U.S. Like they hear very rare of that. You have to be in like a YouTube corner to find that kind of information. So you're not going to find that on network news for the most part. Or if
Hmm.
they do, it's going to be a really quick story with a happy ending, which I know how much you like the happy ending. So we'll leave that. Um, but the
Well,
idea of it,
to be fair, I mean, going back, going back to that, I mean, the U.S. media doesn't even talk about their citizens leaving the country. So
no,
I wouldn't even expect them to understand that. Hey, if you come to Canada and you decide to vacation in Canada, you're getting a 30 to 35% discount right away. I mean, the entire 15 or 16, no, 14 months or whatever I've run my channel, I think I've seen one. I think I've done one report of a U.S. citizen in Canada who actually was shocked to say, "Hey, I'm actually getting like 30% off." Right.
yeah.
So
And so that word's starting to get around. And once again,
yeah.
we're seen as a safe and as a close destination. And the fact is, Canada's been in the news in this US more than it's been in years and years and years.
Hmm.
And it's kind of that Streisand effect. The more you hear the name, the more you think of it. So
Yeah.
we're in more mindsets down south than we've ever been in before.
Yeah. Maybe I should just start doing some videos on, targeting the U.S. citizens and getting them to travel to Canada, and let them know,
Well,
hey, you get a 30 to 35% discount.
exactly. Well, and the thing about it is the media stuff is so interesting, right?
Yeah.
So when you like the way it kind of works is that most of the media stations down there, they're in such a tight lens,
Hmm.
especially the legacy media. They have a small window in which they do things, and so but most people aren't even getting their news from there anymore. They're getting their news from places like YouTube or
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram, or they're getting bits and pieces of news.
Hmm.
So when you open up your YouTube or Instagram and you see these clips about and you're seeing Canada's name all the time in your thing where you never saw it before, you're making us a top of mind destination for people, even
Yeah.
if it's negative news. But the more you hear it, the more you're going to be top of mind. This is how Trump got elected in, actually. The more you hear his name, it
Hmm.
doesn't, you don't really think about, there is not a person in this world that doesn't know that name now.
Hmm.
And we may have very different opinions on how worthy that name is, but the fact is that you know that name and you're associating it. He is the ultimate brander. I will give him that.
Yeah.
He knows how to brand, positively, negatively. He knows how to get people to know his name. So you know, but with Canada being mentioned so much in the media,
Hmm.
um, it's really kind of an interesting thing. I think that's you now give me something to go look up after this is because my nerdy brain works like that. I'm going to take a look at all the ideas of how many times Canada's been mentioned in the last year and map that to tourism numbers. I bet you they link pretty closely.
Yeah. I
All
mean, I
right, we
think
started getting comments in. I see.
yeah. Okay. Let me get through this comment. I want to
Sure.
thank Andrew Davy 6971. Thank you for the $5. The propaganda is failing. Donnie Dorito's besties at the UFC got booed by their own presser, and Donnie Dorito himself got booed at the Knicks game. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've featured the booing at the Knicks game, and I was gonna put the UFC booing in my video today, but decided not to. But yeah, I mean, Wayne, are you noticing as well? I mean, the reputation of Donnie Dorito is really starting to fade. Not just people who didn't vote for him, but also for those that did vote for him.
Yeah, well, that UFC crowd's definitely his audience, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a really kind of an interesting thing to see, but it has directly to do with the economy.
Mhm.
So when the two things that he did that are absolutely killing the bottom of the K, right?
Mhm.
So the medium and to the lower class income, the healthcare thing has raised costs for everybody. So that's been his prime audience has felt that. So I bet you if Josh asked around, right,
Mhm.
he would tell you that if he's talking to the other truck drivers or people like that, that healthcare is a big cost coming out of pocket. Groceries have not been coming down. They don't have the public transportation networks that other countries have. So
Mhm.
fuel prices really matter to Americans.
Yeah.
So you put those three things together, it's just. And then if you're working in the restaurant business, I don't know if you've seen, there's been a couple big restaurants chains just declared bankruptcy this week.
No, I haven't.
Uh,
Which ones were they?
I have to look it up again, but
Uh,
I saw it briefly earlier. Um, the restaurants in generally in real trouble down there,
yeah.
and they have a kind of a dirty little secret where they paid next to nothing for their employees. That's why tipping's so important,
Mhm.
right? But it's also a case of uh, if those employees aren't getting paid. So let's look at Las Vegas. And once again, this is something I have in the can for you later on. So if you
Sure.
want to know more about this, I do have a talk. Wayne Explains comes up about this. But
Nice.
you have the money coming in, the tourism taxes, which is really good. That
Mhm.
funds a lot of things. And when we talk a lot of, for example, 34% of education is funded through tourism taxes in Las Vegas, right?
Great.
In Nevada. Sorry, issues. But you then have the other side of taxes because they have no state income tax, both on businesses and individuals. They get some other taxes, but what happens is if people aren't working, it's all consumption taxes.
Yeah.
So if people aren't working, they're not paying for sales tax. They're not
Mhm.
paying, you know, they're not paying for the fees that you're charging, right? So this is why when you go to Florida, everything's a toll road
Mhm.
because there's no state income tax. They have to raise revenues, and it's all pay per use. Well, if you have no money to pay per use,
Yeah.
what do you do? So
Yeah.
really, it's starting to kill their economies in multiple ways because if people aren't getting hours to work, they're not getting paid. They're not going to have money to pay for all the extra fees.
Mhm.
What do? You're in a death spiral, really.
Yeah. Here's a question from Charlie Oscar. I heard there's no jet fuel in the Philippines. Is this true? Do you know anything about this, or
Very
I haven't heard
limited.
it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's very limited everywhere right now.
yeah. Jet fuel in
This,
particular is going to be a big problem come summer, like
yeah,
come
because
midsummer, and it's going to be
yeah,
a story around the world.
I just read an article today. Southeast Asia areas around where I am, and even where Prof K is, there's flights being canceled still, and
Yeah.
people are being stranded. So I think the jet fuel crisis is still there, even though it's not being reported as much on the news. So
Yeah, no, there's there's three things with the airlines right now that we're seeing. One is if that plane's not full, it's probably not taking off.
mhm.
It costs so much to get off the ground, and these are things that you have to kind of think about. Like I said, I don't want to be an airline CEO. That's a bad place to be right now.
Yeah.
So you have the fact that the cost to the airline is so brutal right now that they can't take off. Like I was talking to one of the CEOs of the Canadian Airlines not that long ago, and he was like, if we're not 85% full on an international flight, we can't fly it. we'll lose money guaranteed.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal, right? And then you take a look at, you know, you're going to have shortages in fuel, which means once again, either you're going to pay premium costs, or not going to fly that flight, right? And once again, the airlines aren't. People think, oh, I'm paying $800 for a ticket. It's a cheap deal, right?
Yeah.
Well, really, think about it. If you think about it in terms of fuel prices right now, they've more than doubled,
Yeah.
and those planes are really hungry beasts.
Yeah.
You know, last time I looked, it was to take off from Toronto in a 747 or 787, sorry, it is like almost $10,000 of fuel just to get off the ground.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, that's a lot of tickets on that plane just to take off and land. So, you know, when we start putting these things together, we start to see some really the airline market's in trouble. And in Europe, for example, you're seeing a lot of the really cheap airlines. They're all now either really limiting their flights or they're going to be going away. Yeah. And you're starting to see some of the really inexpensive airlines starting to go away. And Europeans will notice that.
It's happening here in Southeast Asia too. I mean, flying from Kuala Lumpur to Singapore, I think there used to be like 12 to 16 flights, I'm not too sure, a day. And that's also been reduced as well. So yeah, I know one of our viewers, Lynn, might know this. He's in Singapore. So, but I'm hearing this through my coworkers as well as management because, you know, booking flights, there's just not as many that is around. So here's a question I might need your help with, Wayne. This one's from Christian Kraus, 3964. Do you think Canada would join Schengen if possible? That would make travel between the EU and Canada so much easier.
Okay, just to explain this a little bit, it's a coalition of 29-ish countries where basically they've eliminated the passport. You need the passport to cross from one way to another. Yeah, there's really some really interesting things to do with whether or not Canada should become part of the EU. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm going to tell you two things that will go with this. One, that's probably never going to happen. It has nothing to do with Canada. It happens to do with if we were to allow that, abolish the passports, what ends up happening is that the US will close its border to us. They'll call it a security concern. They'll call it, and we just can't do that. So it's not even going to be Canadian policy. That'll be US policy. That will never allow that to happen. This is why I don't think Canada will ever be a full EU member or pick, you know, whatever alliance where you can have free, like I can work in any country in the alliance without a visa and stuff. Trust me, I would love like AUKUS to work. I would love to be part of the EU, be able to go, if I could go work in, you know, in France, it'd be really cool. It'd be a neat opportunity, especially for my kids, right? But I don't think that'll ever happen because of US would express security interests in that because they're already complaining about, for example, the immigration there, right? And then they would say, well, what happens when the immigrants come to Canada and they can just cross the border anywhere? You would create a border nightmare as a result of that. Yeah. So that's the main reason I don't think it would happen.
Yeah, and I think we would lose all of the, well, quote unquote privileges that we have going to the United States with, you know, the Nexus program would probably be scrapped as well. And it would be, we would probably require an S to go to the US as well. So that's my guess.
Yeah, no, it would be a, well, and it just wouldn't be the ESTA thing. The ESTA is coming because it's a way of taxing us.
Right.
So it's a way of taxing tourists, right? So.
YUL spotter.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for
Hooters, TGI Fridays, Red Lobster. What? Red Lobster's gone, and Fats Brands. I didn't know that. I didn't know the. I heard about Hooters. Going bankrupt. I didn't know about Red Lobster.
But it's the mid-range restaurants. So those just over like fast food. So the only two that are even surviving now is fine dining, like higher end, and then because that's where the rich people can go, and then you have like fast food, and sort of that middle ground is where it's it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
I see Vegas here. Let me give you a quick thing about Vegas is Vegas isn't just losing international travel; they're losing domestic travel. They've basically getting killed, and people from Arizona and people from California aren't going in the same numbers right now. A lot of this has to do with economy reasons. Um, and then the other thing that's killing Vegas that's really interesting is, as online gaming has expanded, why do I could bet on every World Cup game from my house. I don't need to go to Vegas to do that. So, and then a lot of those aren't situated necessarily in Nevada, so they're situated in other places. So they're not getting all that gaming revenue. The sports gaming has really hurt Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
At least the online part.
Yeah, I mean, I occasionally I'll pop into those live stream Las Vegas channels, and you're just not seeing the volume. I mean, there's this one channel, I'm not going to name it, but he's always walking around Fremont Street. And, back in the early 2010s when I used to go a lot, maybe even the 2000s, Fremont Street would be packed. And, some areas would be like shoulder to shoulder, but there's a lot of walkable space now. And it's not even the walkable space. Like when I'm watching those live streams and the guys walking around, I'm looking at the bars on the side or the restaurants on the side and seeing how many customers are actually, spending money versus people just walking around. So, there's a lot of the bars, and the bars in Vegas where you can buy one of those, tall drink things.
You'll buy a bottle and you get for a couple $1,000. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't look like anybody's buying them, right? So, I mean, it's definitely changed. And the pro Vegas people will say, "Oh, there's lots of people," but I have to question how many of these people walking around are actually spending the volume that the international tourists are, or the volume that used to be, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. Well, I can show you though, but basically prices have risen so dramatically in the industry in a lot of ways, especially in Vegas, and they got real greedy. Like they started, the resort fees and the fees for the fees and the fees for the fees for the fees, and they took the value principle away. See, this is the thing that really worries me in general about this industry, even in Canada here. I think this is something that is really kind of interesting. We have a chance to have Canadians make it their habit to travel in Canada, right? So we need to have them now that we have this opportunity to really capture this marketplace. You're looking now at, we need to provide good value for money. We need to provide, you're gonna come stay at my hotel and we're gonna pay $300 a night. I'm gonna get that value worth. Yep. And my fear is always, we're pricing because the market says we can, but people are I can get that money once from someone, but I'm not going to get it again.
Yeah.
So that idea of long-term customers and building long-term legacy with customers, that seems to be going away a little bit. Yeah. And that scares me for our tourism industry as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think the overall jet fuel prices as well as gas prices is really hindering not just the US but globally as well. So even here, this is a comment from Chem525. In Cambodia, the flights have doubled. I'm paying 130 instead of 75 per flight. So I'm noticing that here too in Kuala Lumpur. I mean, my wife and I were thinking about going to Bangkok, but flights have also gone up as well. Whereas before, what I've been told is that it was probably about maybe 30 to 40, maybe even 50% cheaper. So,
well, you're starting to see domestic flights get much more expensive in particular. And once again, you got to remember the real fuel costs are taken off in landing. So, once you're in the air, you're in the air, and you're using fuel, but it's a pretty consistent burn. But it's taking off and landing is where you use your fuel. So if you're doing domestic and you're just doing a short hop, the expense is the getting off the ground.
Yeah. And especially, I mean, depending on what kind of plane it is too, right? So
yeah, there's some leeway there, but almost any plane, it's going to be pretty thirsty getting off the ground.
Yeah. This one's here, another one from my US spotter, 30 US for a hamburger in Vegas. Yeah, I saw a report on that. That's crazy.
$10 bottle of water. Crazy. Yeah. You're in a desert.
Yeah. Well,
Like people, no
um,
one likes to feel ripped off. I think that's the big key, right? So
yeah,
I can get that money once, but if I feel ripped off, I'm never going to give it to them again. So
yeah,
this is why value is so important.
yeah. I mean, the biggest value I see right now, I mean, you said it earlier, there's going to be a lot more, domestic travel, maybe road trips within 6 hours and things like that.
Mhm.
Um, but, you know, ideally, I would love to be able to have everybody do international trips. But I think with the fuel prices just continuing to go up, it's going to be tougher and tougher. So,
Well, even going down to the Caribbean this winter, you're going to see a sticker shock on price.
yeah,
So, like, you would think that's a shorter flight, and it's, if you're on the East Coast, you can get down to Caribbean for, it's not actually not that much further than flying to Vancouver.
hmm,
You know what I mean? It's really not. And there's some places in the Caribbean that's shorter than flying to Vancouver.
yeah,
Um, but it's going to be really tough right now from a marketplace perspective to maintain a pricing level, because
hmm,
you got to remember, as inflation rises, right, you have to pay your people more,
yeah,
and fuel prices go up. That means, but the staff is not making as much money. They're not being able to buy as much because food's gone up because of fuel prices. It's all a cascading effect, right?
yeah,
So what ends up happening is either going to go with a lot less staff, which when people come, they're going to have a bad time, and you might get that money once, but you're never going to get it again.
hmm,
Or you have to pay your staff more and take less profit margin. We all know no business person likes to do that.
yeah.
So
Question: What are you seeing anything in terms of? I mean, we know the U.S. visitors to Canada are going up, but are you seeing other international countries coming into Canada as well? Like, say, for example, from Asia or Europe?
I it's flattening. If nothing, you're going to see a slight decrease from next year, from last
Yeah,
year. Last year we did really, really well, but I think the flight prices are really going to eat up that marketplace. And
hmm,
it's once again, I think there's lots of interest. I'm sure if it was reasonably priced, we would
hmm,
have done really well. I think particularly Europe and Southeast Asia, where Canada's really, once again, Canada's been in the more in the news in those areas,
yeah,
due to trade agreements and stuff like that, then they've been in, Canada's been in forever, right?
right, yeah. Here's a question from Charlie Oscar. GTO, would you ask about the Canadian legal recourse for the Velveeta pumpkin breaking Kuzma? So, yeah, I mean, what's your thoughts on? Do you think Kuzma is going to get renewed, or?
Okay, so the thing about Kuzma is you got to remember, I spend way too much time in Ottawa. Actually, not enough time in Ottawa. There's parts of Ottawa that I really enjoy, but it has nothing to do with the politics. The idea of it is that Kuzma, when it starts going into annual reviews, which is the only thing he could do, like if he wanted to cancel Kuzma and
Yep.
give the 6 month notice, he has to go through Congress.
Mhm.
Not going to happen. He's
Yep.
not going to get the votes for that. So that means we're going to go to these annual review thingies where he's going to be breaking it 6 ways from Sunday. Um, Business isn't going to like it because they like consistency. They want to know what the rules are for the next few years. If I'm going to spend X number of dollars building a plant, I need to know it's going to take me 3 years to build the plant, that the rules are going to be there after I build it.
Yeah.
So the problem with this is it creates uncertainty in the marketplace, constant uncertainty in the marketplace between Canada and
Mhm.
US and Mexico. It's going to make it really difficult for a lot of people, not just for Canadians, but for Americans and those from Mexico.
Mhm.
Mexicans, everyone's going to suffer when he starts messing with this stuff, because
Yep.
it's an integrated economy in a lot of ways. It's like when you had Brexit, the biggest thing about Brexit, what hurt Britain, was that the fact that you were so connected in the
Mhm.
economies, and people didn't realize how connected they were until it was too late.
Yeah. Do you think? I mean, with if if Taco Tuesday decided not to renew or even cancel out of it altogether, do you think he'll get enough pushback from the businesses and the billionaires to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this?
I think that might be a bridge too far. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think he's already starting to be put in the penalty box. from the elites. You're starting to see it. Have you noticed he hasn't passed any major legislation since the big beautiful bill?
Yeah.
He can't pass gas right now. Well, he can pass gas. We all know that, uh, but
Yeah.
no, but he's in political solitary confinement,
Yeah.
and he can't pass anything. And they have to. How long have they basically recessed Congress or the Senate on a regular,
Mhm.
the House of Reps or the Senate? They've recessed them. I don't know how many times now. Well, because they don't have the votes, so
Mhm.
they don't know what to do. So he's kind of lame duck already. The
Mhm.
problem is when you have him cornered and he's lame duck and he has immunity, he's going to be willing to try anything.
Yeah.
He's in legacy mode now. He wants his name on everything to be a legacy for him,
Yeah.
and that's a really dangerous person to have in a legacy mode.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, well, he wants his name on everything. I mean, his name's coming down from the Kennedy Center, I think. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one down.
Well, but they had to put up a big curtain so no one could see him doing it. So
Yeah.
an indication of how some of the stuff is really, really, I don't want to say petty, but
Uh-huh.
he's going to be a dangerous man backed into
Yeah.
a corner.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate. One of the things, no, I found um, it was someone posted it on our Discord server. We're going back to the FIFA topic right now, but the um, let me see if I can zoom in on it. But the prices for FIFA. I mean, I don't know if anybody in the audience right now has been to or went to any of the FIFA games or not, but um, you know, 17 $18 for a poutine. I mean, that's just crazy. And 14 no $12 for popcorn.
Yeah.
That's crazy if you ask me.
Well, the profit margin on that's pretty good. You're
Yeah.
talking about $1.25 worth of product,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you're
So
making 10.50 worth of profit off of it.
yeah,
um,
but this
from
this
a
this
profit
next
margin
screen,
perspective, that is really good. But oh boy, is
yeah,
that pricey? Yeah,
this next screenshot was actually pretty funny. Someone posted it in our Discord server as well. It says 9 people have been injured in the shooting of the England's World Cup camp in Missouri, and it says World Cup fever kicks off as America welcomes the world with traditional display of their culture and tradition. So I thought that was pretty funny. We get a lot of stuff a lot of funny stuff in our Discord server. So I just wanted to share that with everyone.
but as as dark funny that is, it's really
Yeah.
really sad how many people like it. I used to have students who would come to class and you could see an outline of a gun in their bag occasionally, you
Mhm.
know,
Oh, this
and
is when you were living in the U.S.,
yeah,
right?
when I was living in the States.
Yeah.
And it's like, I hope you have a gun lock on that thing.
Yeah.
Um, but because I couldn't see it, I couldn't say anything, right? So I worry
That's
about that kind of stuff.
that is scary.
Like it, because, and I don't blame sometimes the students because the number of
Mhm.
on campus shootings and school shootings and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you're trained from it's really funny because I was thinking about this the other day.
Mhm.
Like in Canada, we have fire drills, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has to walk outside, and we all hated in winter because they would freeze your butt off for a few minutes and then they'd let everyone in, right? But imagine from the time you're like my kids, because they grew up in there, they had to do active shooter drills since like grade one.
Yeah.
Imagine how that would feel like doing that twice a year for how many years?
Yeah.
Like it gets into your brain and it gets you really scared. And this is why we're seeing a lot of this type of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, when I was growing up, it was only fire drills and earthquake drills, and that was it. Not
Yeah.
shooter drills, right? So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, it might be funny as a joke, but it's also sad that it's kind of serious as well.
Yeah, well, and it's so common that 9 people shot is
Yeah.
it's just a line on one newscast.
Yeah.
If you think about that, if you put that in Australia, you put that in New Zealand, you put that in France, it's all over the news for weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even in Canada too, right? So,
Yeah, it would be totally news. There'd be government inquiries about it,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Here's a question I have offline. This is from one of our members. I'd be interested to know to hear about the volume of flights planned for our major airlines now that half a year has passed. So, I guess what's your predictions for Air Canada as well as WestJet moving forward? I
Okay,
mean,
this is what
we've
you
had
can see from the
cancellations.
three Canadian airlines.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Basically, you're going to have less flights to choose
Mhm.
from. So they're going to pack everyone. And where this is going to affect is the smaller and mid-range markets. So if you're flying from Toronto to Thunder Bay, for example, you may not get an everyday flight now.
Right.
You may get once every couple days, right?
Mhm.
So these smaller marketplaces are going to see their access reduced. And in Canada, that's a big deal. We're pretty big geographically, and there's a lot of
Mhm.
communities. There's a lot of people with Thunder Bay who have to fly to Toronto for healthcare, for example.
Mhm.
So it's not just a tourism thing, it's a life thing. And then it also affects packages. So your package delivery is going to be slower as a result with less flights.
Right.
So if you do something on Amazon, right, it
Yeah.
may take longer to get especially if you're in a more rural area. So
Mhm.
all these things are going to affect the rural areas more than sort of Toronto center. The second thing you're going to see is you're going to see because of this more alliance type flights. So
Mhm.
if you want to fly to St. Louis in the United States, you're going to probably have to fly to Detroit and get a connector flight,
Yeah.
right? And it's probably not going to be Air Canada, it's going to be their partners, right?
Mhm.
So you're going to have to do, if you're not going to a major hub, if you're not going to Chicago, New York, LA, or Atlanta, for example, maybe San Francisco can go on that. There's a very good chance you're going to end up having to get a connector flight to anywhere you want to go
Yeah.
because they're going to fly to hubs first before they go to any spoke.
Mhm.
So it's just the dollar signs aren't doesn't make it worth it to fly unless you're like completely full, right?
Mhm.
So these are things that you have to think about. So you're going to have less choice for more money, right? This sounds great, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then the third thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have, if a flight gets canceled, you're going to have a cascading effect now because there's less flights. All the flights are full. Where do we put you?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have a 50% flight coming 2 hours later to fill that up.
Mhm.
So if you miss a flight for whatever reason, right, getting you rebooked is going to be an absolute nightmare. And as much as I love our good friends at like Booking.com or Expedia, if you're booking flights right now, book with the airline. That
Yeah.
pay the extra couple bucks. That security is worth it. Um, it just it sort of is because they're going to be most likely to be able to rebook you much sooner than if you booked on Expedia or Booking.com or one of the online travel agencies.
Yeah. I had bad experiences with like Booking.com or Expedia, so I always book for the airlines.
Yeah, in this case, because there's so few flights going and all the flights are full,
Mhm.
if you miss a flight, if something happens or you land and then you have a connector flight and you miss the connector for whatever reason, it's going to be you're going to be delayed a lot more than you did. And the longer you fly, the more the delay is going to occur, the more the
Yeah.
delay is going to hurt.
Well, if Mark Wayne Mullen has his way, then all of those airports that you just mentioned, they won't have any international flights coming in. So, what's
Well,
your
the
thoughts
good
on
news
that?
is he'll never be able to pull that off. That would kill the U.S. economy. You got to
Yeah.
remember, flights go two ways,
Yeah.
not just
I kind
into
of
the
want to see
United
that
States.
happen, to
They
be
kind of
honest.
yeah, they take Americans to other places. So a lot
Yeah.
of those Americans are doing business. So
Yeah.
unless you never know, they probably have a bunch of money in Zoom because
Yeah.
that's a U.S. system. I invest a lot of money in companies and then I ban something, and that makes
Mhm.
my company stocks worth more. Did I say that out loud? Um, the idea of this, the idea being is that you can't. There's just no possible way. Atlanta would be probably okay because it's considered a reddish state, but
Yeah.
New York, Chicago, LA, San Francisco,
Yeah.
you can never, they're the gateways to the US.
Yeah.
Like even DC has less flights and you would have a heck of a time if you did DC. Like where would you put DC? They're
Mhm.
just it just doesn't work. You need the infrastructure to make that happen. So let's just say they close Chicago. They
Yeah.
closed Chicago out because they were trying to make an example. Where do those planes go?
Yeah.
right? Who's going to have the amount of fuel, or the fuelers? Who's going to have the gates? Who's going to have the ability? Who has the ability to all of a sudden uptake that much more luggage and process it?
Mhm.
You're talking nightmares. Like, those airports are built for that volume. You
Yep.
can't just move volume to another airport and think it can handle it like that. Not going to happen.
Well, I mean, San Francisco, LA, and Seattle, I guess, are pretty
Yeah.
much gateway for any flights coming from Asia.
Yeah.
And you close those off. I mean, well, the next destination would be what, New York? Well, I mean, if they close the New York ones, where else would they go, right?
Well, they're going to go to Vancouver. So if they ever did something to San Francisco or Seattle, they're going to go to Vancouver.
Yeah.
And so, once again, it'd probably end up with Canada for the win for poor decision there.
I don't even know if our Vancouver airport would be able to handle that.
Probably, yeah. No.
I mean, you got to think about it. I mean, there's tons of flights going to San Francisco, Seattle, and LA, and if they
Mhm.
close the
And you're getting
sanctuary
connectors
airport,
from all those for the Canadians,
yeah,
right? You fly
yeah,
down. I don't know how many times I've had to fly from, like, you fly from Vancouver to San Francisco to get somewhere else.
yeah. So, well, I mean, the cynical side of me says go ahead and do it. I want to see what happens, but I think it's just him blowing smoke right now. So,
Oh, it would kill the U.S. economy and it would hurt the world economy. There's just no doubts about that.
yeah, exactly. One of the things Gio and I talked about offline is that you wanted to mention about living outside the U.S. or living outside Canada.
And for
You
those
want
of you who don't know, like, I lived in the States for 15 years.
yeah,
And, back in my day when you graduated from PhD, no Canadian school was ever going to hire you. You had to go down the States. You had to go to the Europe, make your do well, and then they'd hire you back in Canada, which kind of funny part is that kind of what's happened to me. But the idea about it is that I was listening to your thing the other day about it, and I was like, if you want to feel truly Canadian, don't live in Canada for a while.
yeah,
Your Canadianness comes out so much more when you're outside the environment, and you feel it so much more in a way when you're not here. Like, trust me, every student who ever came through a classroom down there knew I was Canadian.
yeah,
You're talking thousands of students, and I would talk about Canada, and I would make a point of talking about it, right? And I had a chance to get my U.S. citizenship, but I wouldn't because it was really important for me. Like, the Canadian part of my heritage was so important to me. Not that there's anything wrong with being a dual citizen. Both my younger kids are dual citizens. They were born in the States and now live here with me. But I just think you become distinctly Canadian by you realize how precious what we have here is when you live somewhere else. And I lived in one of the most beautiful places in the United States. I lived in Charleston, South Carolina. I dare you to find me a more beautiful place. The only reason you'll find something more beautiful is that you like mountains over the ocean.
yeah,
But these are the things that you become to value, things like healthcare. You come to value things like community. You come to value things like how people interact with one another. It really does. You come to value what we have in this country and as a nation and as a culture. You do, believe it or not, we do have a distinctive Canadian culture.
yeah.
And people can see it around the world what it is. And that's, I would also think the thing I would say the most is that I say those with all due sincerity, that when you leave Canada, you realize you get to see it with that different lens. And when you see it with that different lens and you have a different experience, you come to appreciate what you have. When you have something and you're in it, it's hard to see the outside. But when you leave and you have to look at it from the outside in, it becomes that much more beautiful. It really does.
I totally agree with you, and I'll give you my response on that. First, I want to give Chem525 thank you for gifting 50 Guard Thief memberships, and whoever gets those memberships, I don't know who gets them, but you can check out my videos for me, my member videos, which is basically just me asking for moderators. So,
Mhm.
but thank you, Chem525. I really appreciate that. But to your answer, Wayne, I can, if I didn't move away from Canada, I wouldn't know what the hell you're talking about. And it really wasn't until, my first stint away. And even now, it I can 100% agree with you. And I think CanMav can agree. He's been in Hong Kong, I think he said for at least 20 years or something like that. But you see Canada from differently versus, being in it on a day-to-day basis. And
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing for me, when I was in Vancouver, I was a typical whiny Vancouver brat. I complained about everything. I complained about traffic in Vancouver. I complained about bike lanes. Well, I still kind of complain about bike lanes, but I complained about everything, right? And when I was in Vancouver, this was my early 2000s. I mean, I'll tell a little bit of story here, but I actually wanted to move away from Canada because I hated it. And this was in the early 2000s. I was applying for jobs in the United States. I really wanted out, and I got an opportunity to leave. I took it, but the first stint away kind of made me open my eyes and say, you know what, being from Canada really wasn't that bad, or living in Canada, it was not as bad as I thought it was, because when you move to a region or a country that is, on borderline poverty, where
Mhm.
you it's a struggle to get clean water or running water, to be honest, it opens your mind and it kind of humbles you, to be honest, right?
Mhm.
And when I came back to Vancouver, I mean, obviously I came back changed. Um, and obviously now the second time, especially with everything going on with our next door neighbors, it just makes me more, I guess, patriotic,
Mhm.
but also humbled to know that, how do I say it, more humbled that I'm fortunate to be Canadian. Now,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a lot of people saying, I mean, I get it on my channel in the comments all the time. Canada's crap, or we live in a shithole, or the government's running it to the ground. And I really want these people. You know what? Go travel abroad. Go live somewhere else where it is, an actual quote unquote, you know, poop hole, right? It really kind of opens your mind, and it changes you. And I think any Canadian who has lived overseas, or does extensive travel and experiences all their cultures,
Mhm.
they understand what we're talking about right now. So
See, I want to give you two quick examples. One is when I got offered the job back in Toronto, I took a look at sort of two things, right? My paycheck.
mhm,
So if you just look at pure taxes, I paid a lot less tax in South Carolina, right?
yep,
However, if you added what I paid in health insurance and I paid in sort of other fees, because there's a fee for everything down there, I end, I end up making more money in Canada than I did in the States. Because, and then I don't have to worry about if something catastrophic happens
mhm,
that I'm going to go beyond my insurance cap and get covered. Could
right,
I have family member with really serious cancer right now, and she's been treated for like 3 years. I couldn't imagine if you were living in the States, that's basically a death sentence.
mhm,
Or you're going to be either dead or you're going to be bankrupt. Pick your
yep,
choice.
yep,
And where and that's just the way the system is set up. Even with
yep,
good insurance, there's a cap to it,
mhm,
and there's limitations of what they will cover and what they won't cover. And your doctor has to call to make sure that the procedure is all right. And I remember going into the hospital once, and I asked everyone, "Are you in my network?" And there was one person, because I kind of passed out because I was that sick,
mhm,
and there's a person who treated me that wasn't in my network. I got a bill for $3,000.
right,
So, and then the hospitals that I was in my network and the whole bit. So, these are the things that you come to really appreciate Canada for. And the other thing I love about Canada, four seasons.
yeah,
I
yeah.
Fall colors is thoroughly amazing.
You know what? I do miss
Spring,
a four season as well, because right
yeah,
here in Malaysia we get one season, and it's
yeah,
hot, or it's either hot or it's really hot.
yeah. We had
So
hot and hurricane,
yeah,
so
so yeah, here it's hot, or it's even hotter, or it's like, yeah, I mean, can't have no. Him and I, we've been trying to see who can outdo each other when it comes to the weather. Because like he just went through in Hong Kong, it was like 36, and then it felt like 43 or something.
Yeah.
And a week ago here in KL, it was 33 and felt like 40. Right. So,
Yeah.
I forgot what I forgot what it feels like already to put on a jacket. So
Yeah. And once again, not saying Canada's better than anywhere else, because where
mhm,
you grew up and what's home is always going to be home.
yeah,
I've fundamentally learned that over the years. Home matters,
yeah,
and but you come to appreciate your home for what it is, not what
mhm,
you would like it to be.
yeah, yeah. No, I agree as well. And I think me being away now, especially with everything going on, I
Mhm.
talk about it a lot in my videos, and people can kind of tell that I am missing home right now. So, but yeah, I can totally understand what you mean on that way. So,
Yeah. Okay. Do we have questions? Because we have about half an hour left. So let's.
yeah, we got probably about 15 minutes to half an hour.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't have any questions at the moment, but does the audience have any questions for Wayne
Yeah.
at the moment?
I'm sure there's
Um,
plenty in the chat.
Yeah, but let's go through some of the comments. So, Metalizer, I'm down to be a moderator. Let me take down your username. I appreciate that. And if you can you either send me an email or reach out to, or actually, if you're interested, join the Discord server and we can chat there, or send me an email, and I'll talk to you there. Um, let's see, what else do we got here? I haven't really been keeping a
Yeah.
100% close eye on the chat.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you off there.
No, it's all good. All good. Want to thank you, Charlie Oscar, for the 279. Charlie Oscar's been on the channel or subscribed to my channel since the beginning. So really thank you for all your support for over a year now. So
Yeah.
crap, it still amazes me that my channel's been around for like a year. I honestly, and here's a funny story too. I mean, this is just for the audience. Wayne actually reached out to me early last year, because I did a report on him. I think it was an interview with CBC or something like that, and
Yeah. Well,
he sent me an email saying, "Hey, I've never had a YouTuber actually critique my interview. I mean, I wasn't really critiquing you; I was actually complimenting you on it, right?" But back then, I was too scared to do an interview, and I didn't know. I didn't want to, jump onto a live stream. I didn't want to jump onto like an interview because I was just too scared to do it, right? And then I guess a half a year later, somehow, how do we reconnect again? I think you sent me another email again, right?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I really.
Somehow
Yeah.
I put two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you sent me another email, and somehow I
Yeah.
put two and two together that you were you reached out to me before. So, but yeah, I'm definitely getting a lot more confidence now, and it only took me what 8-9 months to get some confidence to do a live stream. So
Well, no, but the cool thing about it is that what it shows, and this is something I would want the audience to know. Sorry, Wynn's going to go into teacher mode for a second.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
But the more you practice something, the more you work at it and chip away. It's amazing what we can do with a little bit of patience and attempts. We're in a world where if we fail something for the first time, we just give it up.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
is I think that's a misnomer. And unfortunately, a lot of our education is that you know you have to do it right the first time, and no matter what. Where the value of this, I always think about. Imagine when you're a baby and you're learning to walk.
Mm-hmm.
If you tried to push yourself up on the couch for the first time, and you tried to take your steps and fell on your butt and said, "No, I'm never going to try and walk again."
Mm-hmm.
You fall down, you cry, it hurts, but you get up and you do it again, right? And you keep doing it until you can. Or there are so many parts of our lives that if you just keep chipping away at it, you will
Mm-hmm.
get good at it. Like me being neurodivergent, if you've ever seen me at a dinner party, is like I was the worst experience ever. I am the worst dinner party host guest ever because I'm afraid to talk to people. I can talk in front of 10,000 people and not blink, and it wouldn't
Yeah.
bother me. And I know that's a lot of people's greatest fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, I doing this is like, it's out of my comfort zone, which is why I
Yeah.
want to do it.
Yeah.
So it's the idea of, how can you build your skill sets, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean, when I started my channel, it was really just because I was pissed off about the 51st state stuff, and
Mhm.
I really did not think my channel was going to go anywhere. I told my wife, I'm going to do this for 1 month, just constant, and I was happy if I hit 3,000 subs by the end of the year. So it kind of blew up a lot bigger than I thought it would. So.
Right.
But I have, you know what? I have Josh to thank for where I am now as well. So, when him and I talked a lot offline, and
Mhm.
he gave me the kind of confidence to, hey, why, he told me, he's like, why don't you do a live stream with me and we'll see how it goes, right? So,
Yeah.
I have him to thank for this as well. So,
And it's amazing how many people in your life you have to thank.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I really was thinking about this the other day. I've had so many great mentors in my life, people who didn't have to help me that did,
hmm
you know, and it's amazing. It was really funny. I was walking past a couple garage sales yesterday, and there was kids doing lemonade stands, right?
yeah,
And I would stop and I gave them each $5, and they said, "Do you want lemonade?" No, don't. I don't want the lemonade. Just do something nice, just for someone next week. You know,
yeah,
that's how you earn it.
yeah,
And the idea of being kind and considerate and giving people your time. One of the reasons I teach, like, I could easily be an executive somewhere,
hmm
but no desire. I like building people. I like helping
yeah,
people achieve their dreams and achieve their goals. That's fulfilling to me. And imagine if we all took the mentality that we would do like two really nice things a day for everyone.
yeah.
What kind of world would we live in? It'd be pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, I also have you to thank too. I mean, you've been kind of encouraging me to, expand in terms of, what kind of content I do, and also helping me out with Wayne Explains as well. So you're like almost like an AI for me. I'll just ask you a question and then you'll tell me, right? So when it comes to tourism, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, my little niche. And the
Yeah,
funny thing is, there's so much of the world to know. Like,
yeah,
in my hobbies, and this is going to tell you how geeky I am. You can put how geeky I am on the geek scale here. But I'll listen to astrophysics lectures. I'll listen to finance lectures. I've listened to gender studies lectures. I've taken classes in all kinds of things that have nothing to do with my thing,
yeah,
because I just want to learn how to think differently and perceive the world differently, and be able to be a little more empathetic towards the people in my classroom, and
yeah,
try to understand how they're perceiving the world. And it's a cool thing. I
yeah,
love when we all kind of learn a little bit.
for sure. All right, let me get through some of these comments. So this one's
Yeah.
from John D9. Thank you for the $10. Great chat today, GTL and Wayne. Heading out to take two car less friends grocery shopping. Have an awesome day, everyone. Hit that
Going
like
back to
button.
the kindness note.
Yeah, thank you. We have a question from YouTube. What do overfly of USA have to do with reduction in CanMex flights?
Okay, now partially, a lot of this is they charge fees.
Mhm.
So, for example, if a U.S. flight flies over Canada, they have to pay NavCan. I think it's $2,500. It's really dirt cheap to do it. So when a Canadian plane flies to Mexico, if they're flying over U.S. territory, even as an overflight, they're paying a fee. Those fees have been rising quite dramatically lately. So in Canada, we do it as a cost recovery. Basically, you're paying what it costs us to monitor that flight, and there's a lot of flights that come over Canada. You'd be amazed. The world, you got to remember, the world is round, and if you want to get anywhere in North America, particularly from Europe or Northern Asia or anything like that, you're going to fly over the poles. So you're going to fly over Canada. So, you know, I generally it is the overflight fees have been rising. The FAA has been charging more, and the other part about it is the FAA is short staff. So instead of reducing the FAA, okay, go back. I'm going to go back in time here. You may remember Ronald Reagan laid off all the air traffic controllers, and then they had to replace them all, right? Well, the reality is that all those replacements are now basically retiring at the same time. So to be an air traffic controller, yeah, that's one of the overflight maps.
Yeah,
Um,
this I remember you sent this to me. So
yeah,
basically, all the flights that go over Canada, they have to pay a fee to
yeah,
Canada.
NavCan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they pay fee to NAVCAN. So it's the same thing for Canadians. Canadian flights that fly over the U.S. They pay a fee to the FAA. Now that fee has been rising, but also the FAA is short staffed, air traffic controllers in particular. So they're also limiting some of it because they don't want to limit domestic flights. They're always going to keep domestic flights first and international flights second.
Hmm.
So if they're
Will
short
they
staffed, they won't approve a flight path. And there's certain flight paths that just aren't worth it to fly without it.
do they give notice if they don't approve that flight path?
Oh yeah. No, these are all done months in advance. Um,
Okay.
but uh, but the flight paths can change based on wind and all kinds of stuff that
Yeah.
have nothing to do with anything.
Okay. Next question. Do you believe there will actually be midterms in the USA? Yeah.
There'll be
If you,
there will
for
be
me,
midterms. Yeah.
yeah, I think there will be a midterm, but will it be legit or will there be zero corruption? I say no.
It's going to be a really interesting thing to see if the systems hold. I think
Yeah.
that's going to be the dependent there.
Yeah. This next one is from Sleeping Weasel 67. Wayne, how do you read the Japanese disinvestment of the U.S.?
Yeah, they've had three major things in the last week. So Japanese disinvestment, the Chinese government is telling their people to disinvest, and then Canada's been doing it pretty regularly, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So these are the things that these are the between those three, you got three large funders, and the bond yields every time if their debt goes up, that carrying amount goes up 1% or half a percent when you're talking trillions of dollars,
Hmm.
that's going to have a major effect. It'll be
Yeah.
interesting. At some point, they're going to have to cut the military budget. I wonder how that's ever going to get done.
Yeah. Sorry, that this one's for Ivana Hamang. Oh, I read out her comment. I remember it. I think in my video, was it today or yesterday? I'm losing track, but I read out her comment because she was mentioned that she went to Europe. My email address is contact@guardtheleaf.com. So you can email me there, Ivana. We have another question here from the Canadian Girl 4. What aspects of Canadian culture did you notice when you were in the US?
There are a couple different things I noticed. One is religion is a big difference. I was in the southern U.S., so take that with a grain of salt. But a lot of times when I met someone, the first question to me is, "What church do you go to?" Um, I've never once had that question in Canada. Um, so just the whole religious component. And you got to remember, religion down there, religion and sports are very similar in a way, in that they create community around them. So when we used to go, you could go to a Clemson football game or University of South Carolina football game, and you just go in there, and there's communities of the same people every year who have the same tailgating spots. They all wear the same colors. They're all throwing the football around. They're all eating together. And the church is a lot like that too, where you go to church and you're seeing the same people every week, and you're building community around a church. They don't necessarily have neighbors the same way. They have church goers,
Mhm.
or they have people who are in their football league or whatever. Um, it's their way of building community, and it's a slightly different way of building community than Canadians do in a lot of ways, at least in my experience. And once again, I'm not saying better or worse, just different. And then the other part of it is that Canadians tend to be a little more, I don't want to, we're not as direct. So if someone gets you angry or whatever, we're not probably going to look at it and say you're an idiot. Da, 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 da. Where in the States they will do that,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. That's that's a really important point. I love this next comment, by the way. I
I
had this
don't.
whole
I don't. I mean, yeah. I mean, okay. I'll just read it out in case anyone was just listening. Shut up, GTL. You're doing good work. Take the compliment. It's hard for me to take compliments. It is. I just don't know why it is. But
I
thank
had
you
a
for
whole
that.
debate with a friend about that this week, taking
Yeah.
compliments. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'll give you the same advice you tell her. I told her,
Yeah.
say thank you and move on, and
Yeah.
keep it in your
Thank
back
you.
pocket for when you're not feeling so good. Remember, that there are people who really like what you do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you, Hutu. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone. This next one's from CanMath, Prof K. Wayne and GTL are totally right. We are lucky in Canada, and going abroad does show us how lucky we truly are. I agree. Yeah. So, for anyone who doesn't know CanMath, he's one of our moderators on Discord, Canadian citizen and living in Hong Kong. And actually, I did an interview with him. That's how him and I got to be pretty close friends. And yeah, and he's been help us to run the Discord server. So thanks for that, Prof K. Here's another question for Wayne. What does Wayne think about Prof Andrew Zimbalist's work saying that major sporting events are a bust for the host city?
If you're talking pure economics, probably right. Like the FIFA World Cup, the ROI for that is going to be it's going to be minimal. Let's just be kind. You're going to see that come out on the Friday before Thanksgiving at 4:30 you'll see the economic impact that come out. That'll be in a dead zone when that gets released for a reason. That's not me being cynical. Well, yeah, that is me being cynical, but yes. Generally, major sporting events, it depends on how you look at it. If you're looking at it from pure economic perspective, totally agree. They are really tough on communities from an economic perspective, and especially something like the World Cup where it's not accessible to anyone. But I would argue things like when we got the Pan Am Games in Toronto, which is think about it, that's a minor league kind of event, but the city built a bunch of recreation centers. They enhanced places they implanted some of the cars and transit in the city and stuff like that for that event. When you get the infrastructure and it actually gets built as a result of one of these, that makes it kind of worth it. So It depends on how you're looking at the question. Like I said earlier, Vancouver got to see the Sky Highway redone. Honestly, would that have gotten done without the Olympics?
Nope. I could say it probably wouldn't have done. And I mean, same with the Canada line too, from the airport into downtown Vancouver, right? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I was bitching about the price for the Olympics. I don't remember that. I mean, I was a little shit back then, right? But I remember the Olympics was going to cost us a whole bunch of money. The Olympics happened. It was a fun party for 2 weeks, and then I realized after, well, the Olympic Village is still there, and the Canada line is still there. The Sea to Sky Highway is now 2 lanes, maybe even 3 lanes on some areas now, right? So it's been a massive improvement. That's why I always compare it. Like, what is FIFA going to leave for the host cities moving forward? What are you going to remember about it in 5 years?
Can you use the event as a catalyst for other things? And once again, sometimes politicians need the extra shine to actually do something.
Yeah. So, all right. Next question is from Chem525, and thank you for the $10. Really appreciate it. What's your view on the American propaganda on BYD cars? I've owned and driven them in Asia, and they're amazing. Reminds me of the USA 1960s propaganda against Canadian nickel sales abroad.
The funniest part is if you own a cell phone, you're basically giving them all the same information anyway.
Yeah.
Except you're giving it to Google or Apple. Honestly, if you think about the amount of information that we're giving away for free, one of my favorite sayings to the students, if you're not paying for the service, guess what? You're the product. And this is, our information is not nearly as, if you did a Google search, you could find out a whole lot about me. You know what I mean? And it's just, you just got to kind of understand that is the world we're living in today. But do I care if the Chinese government knows if I'm going from here to, work? Yeah, they can know that. It's not all that interesting. So my perspective is the vast majority of us aren't that interesting. And I don't mean that as a negative thing, but I mean, what are we doing that could,
But in terms of the data of the car, right? I mean, what's her name? The senator from Michigan, something Slotkin. Kept ranting about how these are Chinese spy cars, right? I mean, you're right. I mean, who cares if they track that you go from your house to the grocery store, right? But my argument is, what is Tesla doing right now, right? Tesla is doing the
Well,
exact
yeah.
same thing.
Well,
So
what does any car do now? Like
yeah.
if you have, all of our cars have GPS built in.
Hmm.
The minute you're using GPS. If you're using Waze in your car, they're tracking you.
Yeah. Or
So
even if you have an Apple phone, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's your GPS is on; they know where you are. So
exactly. And that's the thing. Like if you have a phone in your pocket, you're giving the same information, and at least the Chinese government would only use it to like in a really kind of
yeah,
they're only going to do it in like a absolute situation where they can get you for some reason.
yeah.
Apple and Google, they're doing it just to sell you a lot of stuff and in ways that aren't necessarily ethical.
Hmm. This one's from Rob Vanderbeek. Hey, Rob. You even do scriptless rants, and it's so much appreciated. Yeah, you know what? Going scriptless has kind of made everybody see who the real GTL is. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I gotta tone down the sarcasm I feel, but yeah, it definitely kind of unlocks something. So yeah, thanks, Robert. We have another question here from Lone Wolf 19801. Wayne, the cat rules. How do you view the tourist industry going forward? Sorry for asking if you already answered already. Yeah, we did talk about this a little bit earlier, but maybe you can just kind of do a quick Coles notes.
Yep. Quick note: domestic good.
Yeah.
Now, but we're seeing a lot more people getting on the road, but they're only traveling about 4 to 6 hours away. A lot of 4-day weekends, a lot of leisure where they're mixing business and leisure. So you go on a Sunday, and then Monday and Tuesday you might do some Zoom things, and then taking a lick, working that way, taking one day off, and so we're seeing that leisure. International from Europe and Asia, I would expect to be flat, if not down, mostly due to airline prices, and then we're starting to get more traffic from the U.S. again. So
Yeah. Yep. So next one is from Jenny Annie 8499. Thanks for posting the petition link to punt the D-bag U.S. ambassador. I sent it to people, and they forwarded it to 12 people. Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to do my part. I mean, I think the at least for Pete Hoekstra, you guys all know that I hate him. I think everybody hates him as well. But the line that was crossed for me was when there's potential links to the Alberta separatist group. So I mean, I have a platform, and I'm just going to continue promoting it until it ends. And yeah, like I've mentioned in my videos, I actually got an email response from the office of Alexandre Bulleris, thanking me for helping to promote it. And I told them I'll continue doing it until the petition ends. So yeah, if you haven't signed it, the link will be in my video description as well. So
my only fear is if it did go through, boy, who would Trump pick next?
well, I thought about that. I mean,
That
that's
scares the hell out of me.
yeah, but I mean, I have a different kind of take on it because I've seen people say, just leave him there because, he's good for reminding us, that what the United States is right now, right? And
He
I
seems
get
to be
that,
a
but
weekly reminder. Yes.
yeah, I get that, but at the same time as well, do we continue letting him run his mouth and just kind of doing whatever he wants, or do we put our foot down and kick him out? And obviously, yeah, you're right. What's the next person that's going to come back in, right? Now, my stance on that is okay, bring it on. Whoever it is you're gonna bring in, we'll take them on too, right?
Yeah.
So I for me, it's more like I don't like that Canada's taking this passive attitude,
Yeah.
and it's
Well,
like
I also think that the fact with the Gordie Howe Bridge thing,
mhm,
that to be honest with you, that just screams corruption. You know what I mean?
for sure.
And it's a really sad thing. And Hoekstra got involved in that this week too. So beyond that is just, you know,
Yep. All right. So I'm starting to run behind on comments. So I'm
yeah,
gonna get through these. Prof Wayne, is there any tips to spend our money better to support local tourism businesses?
yeah, that's always a good thing. Once again, local business. In Canada, just to let you know, 82% of all tourism businesses are small businesses.
Yeah.
So this is these are the things that you kind of have to think about. But I would tell you when you're going to places, look for that local restaurant. And the thing about it is that people say, "Oh, I don't want to go to a Tim Hortons because it's American owned." Yeah, well, it's Brazilian owned technically, I think
Brazil,
now.
yeah.
Uh, but the idea of it is that the locals are owners.
Hmm.
So one of the things I would look for is who's the actual owner of the places that you're going to, and you can find that pretty easily. So if you want to find local businesses, um, I will tell you right now, the small businesses can really use your help these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I'm trying to find businesses that I can help, kind of like what I did for TriArts
Mhm.
Manufacturing, and I have a follow up with TriArt or Evan at TriArt that I'll probably release in about a week, maybe just before the end of the month. So it's a pretty cool follow up, and I think everybody will like it. Um, but yeah, I mean, definitely support local businesses, and if I get any other local businesses reaching out to me, or ones that have been hit by the de minimis issue, I'm more than happy to feature them. So
But I also want to reiterate the point that most businesses in our industry are small businesses.
yeah,
Like everyone thinks of the Marriotts and Hiltons of the world. Yeah, and they're big, have big market dominance, but they're actually a relatively small portion of the industry. The vast majority of our industry is small business and people just trying to make it.
yeah. YouTube, yeah, keep bugging on GTL. Thank you. Yeah. Um, this next comment is from Stephanie C, who is one of our moderators. I think she's been quiet lately. I'm assuming Stephanie must be talking about the co-host.
Yeah.
She's passed out right now. I'm looking at her right now on the floor. So if you were hoping to hear from the co-host, I don't think it's going to happen on this live stream.
I
She's
got an
passed.
email from the co-host earlier saying, "Do your job. I'll be listening on the side, and if you're not, I will tell you." So
Yeah.
I've been
Well,
warned by the co-host just to behave
I
myself.
yeah, I kind of figured people would be asking for the co-host, so I uploaded this video, and I'm going to show her making biscuits to everybody. So this was earlier today. Let me continue to play it. But that's pretty much all the co-host I can show for today because she's literally passed out. So I'm
You don't
surprised
want to get
people.
you don't want to get in trouble for showing those kind of photos.
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's around, but sometimes she has her moments, right? So, all right. Let me see if I can get if there's any more questions because I do have to get going pretty
Yeah.
soon. Uh, let's see. And no, I think that's. Oh, I'm about 15 minutes behind. Let me just see if there's anything else. Well, here's a question for me. Is it easier for your fields if we simply compliment your cat for the amazing work done on GTL? Yeah, yeah, compliment the cat instead, not me.
The cat will take it.
Yeah, to give the cat the credit. So let's see if there's. Uh, I guess this is a question here from doing camping 9132. Are we going to get hordes of hungry Americans invading us? I'm not sure if that's a. Well, I mean, it is a question. One of the things. Okay, here's Wayne. Here's a question for you. What are your thoughts on um, the ancestry thing when it comes to U.S. citizens being able to get a Canadian passport?
Okay, let me answer two questions. I'll answer this one and then I'll answer the other one.
Sure.
We are going to see an increase of American travelers this year, and I think they're going to come, and I think they're going to be present. You're gonna see a lot more Americans. I noticed just in Toronto, we're seeing a lot more Americans just walking around, and a lot of it has to do with uh, the Canadian dollar, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that we have had a lot of media down there, so we're top of mind for a lot of people. It's amazing how important it is to get your name out there, positive, negatively, whatever. You get your name out there, and you start to become top of mind for people. The second question is the ancestry one. And it's
Mhm.
a really kind of interesting question because Canada is very strict on immigration in a lot of ways. I know it didn't feel like it for a while, but it really is. To get enough points to come in is not easy for a lot of people, especially if you don't have French or you're not young. It's really difficult to get in. The lineage thing is, I thought about this when I was living in the States because both my younger boys were born down there, and if we move back to Canada and they have kids, would they have U.S. citizenship? And then the answer is no. But if we'd stayed in the States and they had kids, would they be Canadian? And I think they grew up Canadian, even though they were in the U.S. for a good part of it. But um, we came up every summer. You know, they had two Canadian parents, a lot of Canadian values. Sort of growing up with with the young people. I don't know. It's a really interesting question.
Mhm. Here's a question from Tuckular, I guess.
Yeah,
Question to Wayne: how significant will the trade agreements that Canada has signed with different countries in terms of tourism and cultural exchange?
very valuable, extremely valuable. I think you're going to open up a whole bunch of travel from South Korea, from Southeast Asia, from India. I think it's kind of a twofold thing. One is you'll get a lot of business traveler because people have business relationships here, so therefore they're going to come over. Um, but the other part of it is that you're making the news in those places. You're establishing relationships in those places. One of the things that drove the U.S. hegemony was the fact that they had their tentacles everywhere, and you were whether it be Hollywood movies, whether it be economics, whether it be full military power, whatever it is, they're in the news constantly, and people felt a connection to place and space as a result. I think the same thing will happen with Canada as we become an important player in the world marketplace and in the world scheme. We start being thought of as a place that people want to engage and want to be part of. And the more ties you have to somewhere, the more likely you are to have visitors from those places.
Right.
So it's really important.
Yeah. All right. One more
Yeah.
question. It's from Wishful Thinking. How much of an impact are China EVs going to have on the Canadian auto industry? Japanese, Korean cars forced American cars to make improve, but now seem to be failing.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because once again, I'm going to age myself a little bit here. I remember in the late 70s and into the early 80s when the effect Honda and Toyota made on the marketplace, and they caused everyone to have to up their games because the cars were so well built and so long lasting, right?
Right.
I think the Chinese EVs are going to they're not coming over in big enough numbers to really affect the marketplace deeply, but it
Not,
is going
yeah,
to
not
send,
yet, right? So,
not yet, no, not yet, but affordability, I will tell you in the next election, I'm guessing the number one issue is going to be affordability.
mhm.
And when they see the price difference between the Chinese EVs, but um, the and our local things, it's just kind of interesting, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, I think the Chinese EVs. I mean, we're supposed to have 44,000 coming to Canada this
Yeah,
year, and
it's not a
then
huge number.
yeah, but I someone told me. I mean, I wasn't born yet, but when the Japanese cars came in, it was kind of the same
Yeah,
situation.
yeah. This
Um,
is a toe in the water market
yeah.
test.
So who knows 10 years down the road, right?
Yeah, but the
Um,
thing about it is competition. The one thing that really kills an industry is when it becomes more of a monopoly or duopoly, or you know what I mean. We
yeah,
see it with telecommunications in Canada, for example, right? There's no need to be pushed forward and be better if there's no competition in the marketplace. So it'd be nice if there's actual competition in the marketplace.
yeah. Okay, the last question is from Christian Kraus 3964. Some places in here in Europe can handle more tourists. What about Canada? Um,
Yes
talk
and
to us.
no. Canada's a big country. It depends on what you're talking about. There are places in Canada that are definitely under pressure, especially in summer months. So in Canada, we have a joke. We call it the 12 weeks of summer. So there are places that literally get inundated with tourism for about 12 to 16 weeks. And at the end of it, the seasonality helps Canada. That is the one thing that kind of helps us where we get winters and we get other places.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of an interesting um, it's an interesting thing to see because I think this is where our industry would say, "Oh, we want tourists year round," but the seasonality actually helps communities get a little breathing space sometimes.
Yeah.
So I think in a way it's good sometimes.
Yeah, because I mean, we get reports out of BAM saying that there's too many tourists, right? There's no more
Mhm.
parking, and it's just crowded. And on one side, it is great because we are getting the tourists that the United States isn't. But I do sometimes worry about the capacity, right? But I'm sure Whistler's going to get a lot of tourists, Vancouver, Toronto, Montreal, all the typical places. But the smaller places, are they going to be able to handle it, right? So.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And last comment I'll be showing. This one's from Jacob Bax. Guard Leaf. HOEKSTRA has also funded a fundraising of far right part in the U.S. Embassy in the Netherlands. Keeping him can be dangerous. Yes. And that's why I feel, what? Despite him being a good reminder for us, I think he's got to go. So
Yeah.
that's why I'll be featuring that petition until the 25th. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree with it. I
yeah.
worry about who would be next.
Yeah. Well, my mentality is, get him out. Whoever comes in, we'll take him on too. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, I want to thank you again, Wayne. And I do want to give you a special thanks for the Wayne Explains videos. For those that are listening right now, Wayne has been helping me with his Wayne Explain videos. And we kind of talked offline about this, and I said, what can I do for my channel and the viewers that might be a little bit more educational versus me just ranting and swearing and making fun of the U.S. government. And I thought, Wayne, why don't we do some sort of educational style video, right? So Wayne is going to be helping me moving forward, and we're going to be having a segment called Wayne Explains. And I have a couple videos coming up, and Wayne's going to be um, creating a few more just to kind of give us a better idea of the tourism and economic, I guess, issues going on. So, one of the things I do ask, if for anybody watching right now, if there is any topics that you would like Wayne to talk about in maybe a future Wayne Explains video, feel free to send me an email. And you can send me an email at contact@guardtheleaf.com.
Yep. I
Okay.
enjoy doing them. I enjoy the medium, and you know, once again, it's a chance to spend a little more time explaining things than we have sort of in a normal day.
Yeah, and it's a good change from me just yelling and swearing as well. So I think there needs to be a bit of a balance on this channel. So
Well, you get a little bit of what it's like to be in a class with me. So,
yeah,
although I can't be as bouncy, then
all good. I mean, your videos are great. I learned from a lot from them, and it's also helping me out as well. So
yeah.
all right, well, I want to thank you, Wayne, for joining me again, and we'll do this again most likely next month if you're available. And yeah, I want to thank everybody who joined. And yeah, that's it for today, I guess. I'm not very good at these outro things. So yeah, thanks very much, Wayne. I really appreciate you joining me.
See you all again soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll chat next time. Thank you.